But the thing you have to keep in mind before you give up is that if you give up, the guarantee is it will never happen.
Keep pushing through it and you'll make it through the day.
No matter how bad things get, life is beautiful and things will always be better. Everything is worth it, guys.
Scared? Alone? Unsure of what's to come? This podcast is for our brothers and sisters who struggle with homelessness. Join us on this journey to improve our mental health, to challenge what's possible, to become who we are. Let's ignite hope one spark at a time and set our dreams on fire.
Welcome back to all of my friends in the Street Strong community. Today is an episode titled To Have or To Be. It's an important question that I'm starting to ask myself after over a year and a half in Skid Row. Is it more important to have or to be? I want to lead off with this by saying that I have a friend in Skid Row who lives in his car, and he really doesn't own anything in the world other than his car and the clothes that he wears on his body. And I'm not making this up. I don't say this to bring you a false sense of hope or joy, but he's one of the happiest people that I know. Every time I see him, he says there's nothing I can do for him. Things are going great. He goes on his walks. He feels hopeful. His life is simple. He breathes very deeply. He looks at the stars, and he finds a meal every once in a while that makes him feel good. He's not bothered by other people, and he has his thoughts to himself. His refuge is in his own soul. It's not found through the possession of cars or designer clothing. He's not defined by how many followers he has on social media. He's on his own, by himself, and ultimately happy. Did I think that was possible before meeting this man? No, but it's inspiring. Right now, there are millions of kids around the world with posters of LeBron James in their rooms, or Taylor Swift. Both great people, no disrespect whatsoever. But the true heroes are guys like the man who lives in his car. People who, against all odds, can still find joy and happiness. People who, against all odds, persevere and accept their circumstances with their heads held high, grateful for every moment that they're alive, that they can breathe fresh air, go about their day, and dream for a better tomorrow. He's a hero, and this episode is dedicated to him. Before we begin, let's remember that in every day, there is potential to be blown away by beauty and by bliss. That if we can let go of the past and have faith in the future, the fog can clear, we can see the unseen, and tomorrow can be today. Now, as we think about the question to have or to be, let's reflect on the world around us. It's changed so much in the last few years. In a world driven by a desire to have, we often lose sight that the goal is not to have, but to be. The difference between being homeless and living on a yacht off the coast of Florida is vast. And if we had to pick, I'm sure that most of us would choose to live on that yacht. Yet why are people who live on yachts still so unhappy? If money bought happiness, they would be the happiest people on earth. But they're not, and we know they're not, because we know since the beginning of time that having money is not the same thing as having happiness, even if it is desirable, even if it does bring moments of comfort and joy and security. Comfort and security are different than inner happiness. Now, every day we are bombarded by messages that equalize having and happiness, that owning a Lexus will make us feel proud and strong and worthy members of our family and our community. When was the last time you saw a commercial that urged you to be a better person? A commercial that asked you to buy the guy a latte behind you at Dunkin' Donuts, or suggested you stop on the side of the road to help a little old lady with a busted tire? There's no money in that. Therefore, according to our world, it doesn't make you happy. Today, we invite you to reflect on the difference between having and being, to find peace in who you are rather than what you have. and to inspire you to rise above the pressures of wanting more when we can't always have it. And God bless the folks on Skid Row and anyone out there suffering from homelessness today. The reality is that we can't always have what we dream of right now because the world is not fair. There is a lot of injustice and wrongdoing, and we can't always have the basic securities that everybody else does, but we can dream. We can stake our happiness and our joy and our hope for the future in our inner selves rather than on other things outside of ourselves. And that's what this is about. It's not about having, it's about being. Now, we live in a society where conquering nature is celebrated. We blow up mountains to find fuel so we can power our cars and heat our homes. We cut down ancient trees in the Amazon to build hot tubs so that your uncle can jump in too quickly and inflate his swim trunks. This pursuit to have, however, often leads to the destruction of our environment and to the erosion of our well-being. This mindset of domination extends beyond our interaction with the environment. It seeps through our social structures, and it creates a culture where having more equals being more. We measure success by the size of our homes, the brand of our clothes, the numbers in our bank accounts. But this obsessive quest leaves us more lonely, more anxious, and more dependent. Nearly 10% of Americans were seriously considering suicide around 2021 after the onset of COVID. We become trapped in a cycle where time, our most precious resource, is something we try desperately to save, only to be relieved when it finally passes. In our mad dash to have, we cease to be. We connect to things outside of ourselves and lose a sense of who we are to begin with. The good dad is known as the guy with the Tesla. The honest niece is best known for how many followers she has on Twitter or Instagram. My friends, having is not being. To be truly fulfilled, we must shift our focus from having to being. To be requires that we give up selfishness, the desire for more, the cravings for gadgets and toys, and it requires that we make ourselves empty and poor. This emptiness is not a void, but a space where genuine joy and connection can flourish. It is in this state of being that we discover our true selves, free from the chains of toys and junk and gadgets and the expectations from our neighbors and society. Our friend who lives in his car created that space, that void, that emptiness. He cleared the clutter from his life so that he could experience what it means to be himself, to be on his own, to be in touch with his feelings and his thoughts, to rely on the basics in life, the stars, the air, his breath, a nice walk, admiring the sea and the flowers and the grass and the birds perched on power lines. That guy has time and space to appreciate what we always knew made us happy since the beginning of time. And the rest of us are caught up and trapped in a whole lot of more. Now, by releasing our attachment to what we have, we can open ourselves to the boundless potential of who we can become. This is more than just emptying ourselves of material possessions. It's about exploring a deeper side of ourselves that can leave us lasting joy. To be, in the truest sense, is to exist in a state of joy and connection. It's a mode of existence in which one neither has anything nor craves to have something, but is joyous, employs one's faculties productively, and is one with the world. This state of being is where true happiness resides, not in having more, but in the richness of our experience, in the richness of our relationships. Now, a wise philosopher once said that we are a society of unhappy people, lonely, anxious, depressed, destructive, and dependent. People who are glad when we have killed the time we are trying to save, but we have to shift our focus from grabbing more to feeling better. When we compete, we alienate ourselves and each other. We forego cooperation and connection with the people around us, the things that actually make us better as people and as a society. Let me share a story that beautifully illustrates these points. Once upon a time, there was a wealthy businessman who was vacationing in a small coastal village, and he saw a fisherman returning with his catch and complimented him on its quality. The businessman asked how long it took to catch the fish. Just a little while, the fisherman replied. Why don't you stay out longer and catch more fish? The businessman inquired. I catch enough to support my family's needs, the fisherman said. But what do you do with the rest of your time? The businessman asked. Well, I sleep late. I fish a little. I play with my children. I take naps with my wife. I stroll in the village. And I sip some wine and play the guitar with my friends, the fisherman explained. The businessman scoffed. I have a master's degree from Harvard, and I can help you. Spend more time fishing, buy a bigger boat, and eventually you can have a fleet of fishing boats. Instead of selling your catch to a middleman, you can sell directly to the processor, eventually opening your own cannery. You can control the product, processing and distribution. Of course, you would need to leave this small coastal village and move to the city, then probably to New York, where you'll run your expanding enterprise. The fisherman asked, well, how long will this take? About 15 years, the businessman replied. But what then? What then? The businessman laughed and said, well, that's the best part. When the time is right, you would announce an IPO and sell your company's stock to the public, and you'll become very rich. You could make millions. Millions? And then what? The fisherman asked. Well, then you would retire. You could move to a small coastal village where you would sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take naps with your wife, stroll to the village in the evenings and sip wine. You could even play guitar with your friends. The fisherman, smiling, looked up and said, isn't that what I'm doing now? You see, materialism is seductive. It's a trap that promises us happiness, but delivers us emptiness. It encourages us to measure our worth by what we own rather than who we are. But true happiness can't be found in those things. It's a rat race. True happiness is found in our connections to ourselves, to our neighbors, and to nature, in our creativity and our capacity to love and be loved. By letting go, we free ourselves to experience the true richness of life. We become more present, more compassionate, more attuned to the needs of others. We realize that our worth is not determined by what we have, but by the depth of our character and the strength of our spirit. The best advice comes from an ancient Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius, and he said, to live best, live simple. Now, to live a life of being rather than having requires intention. It requires us to be mindful. It means that valuing experiences over possessions is how we relate to the world. I want to repeat that. To value experience over possessions. To value our relationships over our status. To value our inner peace over our outward success. You don't have to be a CEO to be happy. You can be happy with a few deep breaths, with the sun shining in your face, with a beautiful walk by the ocean, by embracing simplicity and finding joy in the present moment. One way to cultivate these mindsets is through gratitude. By focusing on what we already have rather than what we lack, we shift our perspective from scarcity to abundance. We begin to see the beauty in everyday moments, the richness of our relationships. We appreciate the simple pleasures of life, such as a warm meal, kind word, or a beautiful sunset. The other day, I was walking down the street, and a lady just smiled. She just smiled to me, a big, wide smile, and it made my day. Because I walk by 200 people a day. Most people are on their iPods. They're zoned out. They stare at the sidewalk when they look by you. They have dogs or cats, loud music. They're texting. And all this lady did was look at me and smile. And it made my day. It was a brief moment of connection, a brief, pleasant moment where two people who otherwise have no idea who they are just connect and say, hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate that we're here together in this small moment. And that was way more powerful than any like on Facebook. It was way more powerful than buying a new t-shirt. Those moments are what make us happy. And that was being, not having. The power of community is so important. We're social beings. Our mental health depends on us being social and connecting with people around us. It's a vital part of who we are. By building strong, supportive relationships, we create a sense of belonging and purpose. We find joy in helping others and in being helped. For those of you out there that feel a little uncomfortable about being helped, remember that being sociable is who we are. That the person helping you needs connection just as much as you need connection. That just by being present and accepting help, you are giving a gift of connection, and you both will flourish. In this modern world, it's easy to feel isolated and disconnected. We have hundreds of virtual friends, but few real connections. When we prioritize those face-to-face interactions, we have meaningful conversations, and we strengthen our sense of community and our fulfillment in our relationships. Service is another powerful way to shift from having to being. When we serve others, we move beyond our own needs and desires. We connect with others in a meaningful way and find joy in making a difference. Service helps us to see the world from a broader perspective and to appreciate the richness of our lives. By giving our time and our talents and resources to help others, we experience a deep sense of fulfillment and meaning. We realize that true happiness comes not from what we receive, but from what we give. Service helps us breed compassion, empathy for others, and gratitude to live a life of purpose and of meaning. Serving in Skid Row has given me a kind of happiness that I would never be able to have had I gone to the store and tried to buy something, a new pair of Nikes, a better car, a bigger house. No amount of having would eclipse how wonderful and warm it feels to connect with other people in your community, to hear their stories, to share your own stories. That's what life is about. And you don't need to have a home or a big paycheck to serve others. I have friends on Skid Row who serve others every single day. They help their friends get sober because they volunteer at sober living homes. They connect people to resources that helped them when they were homeless. They work in IT. They prepare sandwiches at Subway. They are helping other people, making their day better, and service comes in many forms, and it's beautiful. Now, fear is also a major obstacle to live a life of being. We fear losing what we have, not having enough, or not being enough. These fears keep us trapped in a cycle of striving and anxiety. But by confronting our fears and letting go of our attachment to stuff, we free ourselves to live more fully and more full of joy. One way to overcome fear is through acceptance. By accepting ourselves and our circumstances, we let go of the need to control and manipulate. We find peace in the present moment and trust in the natural flow of life. We realize that we are enough just as we are, and we have everything we need within us. My friends, let's embrace the path of being over having. Let's find joy in the present, in the simple pleasures of life, and in our connections with others. Let's release our attachment to stuff and discover the true richness of our existence is inside ourselves. It's available now. Tomorrow is today. There is so much that we can be grateful for that is already in front of us. We don't need to grab. We have it here. And by knowing that, we can transform our own lives and contribute to healing in the world. Remember the wise words of the Sufi poet Rumi, who said, "When you let go of who you are, you become who you might be." Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, stay strong.
Thank you for listening to Street Strong. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with every single person you know who is struggling with homelessness. And remember that famous line from Mr. Rogers: "When the day turns into night and you're way beyond my sight, I'll think of you."